everybody. This is Dr. Ronda with Vaughn Chiropractic, and I am here with my Chiro Bestie. And you would think that when we leave work, we don't continue to talk about it, but that's all we really talk about.
That's it.
So we decided to have a little conversation and kind of let you guys know what we experience in practice and kind of go over our first time visit with patients and let you know how things are going to go and what people are nervous about and just have a little conversation. So this is Dr. John Whitman. She's from Dewitt Chiropractic in Dewitt, Michigan. And John, why don't you tell them a little bit about you and how long you've been in practice?
So I've been in practice in Dewitt for about 21 years now, which makes me feel old. But yeah, we've been doing this for a minute. So
yes,
we have lots of fun experiences.
Yes.
And it's fun to share those.
Yeah. And in your practice, what kind of practice do you have? They all kind of...
Yeah, I see a lot of families and all age groups, and I do have a pediatric certification, so I see a lot of pediatric pregnancy, all the way up to like my oldest patient is 94. So
Awesome.
All age groups.
When did your 94-year-old patient start seeing you?
She transferred to me when her chiropractor retired about 15 years ago.
So she's been getting
adjusted. She was getting adjusted well before that. Yeah.
Awesome. So what do you think the biggest fear people have when they first come into your office?
So like a first time patient, they're nervous about, is it going to hurt? That's always, that's always the question. Sometimes I'll just bring it right up when, if I'm chatting to them and I'll just say, especially if it's a kid, a little one, I'll be like, so are you nervous? And sometimes they'll say no, but a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, I'm a little nervous. And you can kind of tell their body language. And so I just say, I try to be funny and I just say, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you on your first visit.
I always say it's not going to hurt me at all.
And so then they usually laugh and then I let them know that I'm kidding. And then I always follow it up with, this is what I'm going to do. I explain, how the adjustment's going to go. And I say, if it hurts at all, if it's uncomfortable at all, just let me know and we can figure out another way to do it. Because I do these techniques. I can use the instrument. I can use the drop table. We can do a manual adjustment, which is the kind where you hear the noise, the actual pop.
I think that's a really good point that people don't realize there's not just one way to adjust you.
A lot of people are the most afraid about having their neck adjusted manually, and they don't come in for so long because they think that has to happen. And it really doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to do a manual adjustment on your neck. And especially kids under 7, we don't do that anyway in our office. And then after 7, we can do very gentle manual adjustments. They're very specific. And, some people find it very helpful. But if you can't relax for that, if you're tense, we don't have to do it that way. We can I use an impulse instrument, which is about 100 times faster than I can be with my hands. So you can make a really good adjustment with very low force, keeping you in a neutral posture so that, you're not uncomfortable. It's very effective and pain-free. Yeah,
that's a really good point too. I think about the kids that you were saying that it is a different adjustment that we give to kids than we give to adults. Because parents come in and they're sometimes curious about their kids getting adjusted.
Right.
But real nervous about, are you going to do what you do to me?
They imagine, adults, if you've been in practice any length of time, you realize adults have a lot more muscle tension, more stress, computer work. And we have to kind of work through that and with the body. Sometimes we have to use a little more pressure, whereas with kids, usually as long as they can relax, which they usually can once we break the ice and get them relaxed, and just very light pressure, and we can really get things aligned and moving correctly pretty easily with specific adjustments.
And they get excited to be adjusted, ironically.
Well, a lot of times they can be nervous at first, but once they realize they feel so much better, they're hopping right up on the table. I even have sometimes, the parent comes in just to get themselves adjusted that day, and the kid's not on the schedule, and the kid's begging, and I'm like, oh, it's fine, no,
yeah, we
really want to. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We're not going to deny kids of that.
Oh, no, it's like Jesus said, bring the children.
Yeah.
Let them come to me. I love adjusting kids.
I think too, we were talking earlier, I have a lot of people that are actually nervous about my table. You don't have the high-low table.
I used to, and I remember. Now I have the elevation.
Okay, but it's flat.
It doesn't come up to standing, but I used to have the standing high-low.
Yeah. So my table stands up, and people stand on it, and the table actually comes down to bring you down. And people will walk in the room, and they're like,
because it's up.
What is that
position.
thing?
Yeah.
And it's my torture device. No, I'm kidding. But really, what I explained to them, it's for when people come in with a really, really bad low back and they can't climb on and off my table.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful if you're in a lot of pain. Other than that, I think it's just kind of there.
The reason I don't know who developed it, but I learned it was to help with the leg check, which I'm sure you do.
Yes.
Some of your analysis, I do too. It does help certain patients just make sure they're on the table in a very good neutral posture and not kind of sliding on the table crooked. So a lot of times I have to reposition the patient and just make sure they're straight. Whereas the high-low, you can get a really good analysis leg check. And so that's why that's really beneficial. So as long as the patient's not too nervous to ride down the table, it can be beneficial for that. So even if they're not in a lot of pain or not, too agile to get on and off the table, the kids love riding on it too.
Oh, 100%.
They would bring me up, let me go back down and ride. They want to ride it twice.
And sometimes they want to push, they want to ride it twice. They want to push the button to bring mom up. They want to push the button to bring their brother up. So we kind of make it a fun thing. I always joke they can get on like an airplane and put the arms out or be a pencil and keep their arms down just to kind of make it fun for them. But we actually had a kid table that we got rid of because the kids wanted to ride the table.
Oh yeah, they didn't even want to.
They didn't care about the cool dinosaur sitting in the room. They wanted to ride the table that they could go up and down on.
Sometimes if kids are nervous when they're in the headrest, I'll pretend there's like a little garage under the headpiece and put something under there for them to look at so they'll lay down. Sometimes they don't. They're a little nervous to just not, that control thing.
That's a great idea.
The headpiece, if they're little and they're squirming around, I'll be like, okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Look down there so you can see it. And sometimes the parents will get involved.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So what about when they do get adjusted? I use an example of a patient. Actually, I just told her this. I've used this example for years because she started seeing me when she was pregnant. And she was terrified. I mean, she was pregnant too, right? So she was even more.
Oh, right.
As a pregnant mom, you're nervous of anything.
Right, yeah, you don't want to hurt.
So
you're going to hurt the baby.
She told her husband, she went home and she's like, yeah, I felt amazing. And he said, oh, what did she do? And she looked at him, she goes, I don't know. She just pushed on my butt a little bit. And that's what she really thought. But she was really nervous coming in. And she left going, I can't believe I was so nervous. Like, how often do you hear that?
Yeah, so much. Yeah, like, I can't believe I didn't do this a long time ago. Sometimes I even hear, I don't know if this would be a controversial thing to say. I used to hear it more. I don't know why my doctor didn't tell me, my medical doctor didn't tell me to do this sooner because I've done all these other things and that didn't help with headache or whatever. And
we're a last resort.
Yeah, we were a last resort. And then they were like, and it worked so well and it was, pain-free and not expensive and no drugs. And and then they're hooked. They want to be checked always to make sure they're not going back to that state again. Yeah, so we do typically in our office, and I think probably for you too, initially when you get adjusted, a lot of people will, another myth, if you will, is if I start getting adjusted, I'm going to have to get adjusted all of the time.
Oh yeah, we hear that
like you're addicted to getting adjusted. My response is typically, are you addicted to taking a shower? I mean, you just know you feel better when you're clean, and when you're dirty. You want to be clean again. So a lot of my patients have been getting adjusted a lot of time. They know when they're misaligned and they want to be in alignment. They're not addicted to it, although I think it's
addicting to feel good.
Yeah, it's healthy to feel like your spine is aligned and moving correctly. And another argument that I, point out for people is we are asking our bodies to do things they're not genetically programmed to do, like sitting at a computer for 8 hours a day. Our bodies aren't designed for that. So if you're doing that every day for 40 hours a week, naturally your body is going to have some stress, some repetitive strain, some subluxation is what we call it, where it's just not aligned and moving correctly, and we need to get in there and.
Well, it's maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the dentist, they clean your teeth, and you still brush it in between, and you still get regular checkups, right? Yeah. And that's what I agree with 100%. I tell people. But here's the other deal. I tell people, you can use me as you want me. In my world, I love being under wellness and maintenance, and I get it. But I think for some people, they have to learn to understand what that is. And I always joke when people come in, they're like, oh, I've been thinking about you. And I giggle. I'm like, nobody thinks about me when they feel great. So if you've been thinking about me, you're in pain.
I dreamt about you.
Oh, I haven't gotten that.
Not in an appropriate way. Like they wanted their bodies telling them that their innate intelligence is saying you need an adjustment, Dr. Jen.
Yeah, that's the best. When you run into patients out and about and they're like, oh, I've been thinking about you. And I'm like, what hurts? Because nobody's like, oh, I wonder how Dr. Ronda's doing.
After you've been taking care of people for a while, the flip will happen. Where you think about someone, they come into your head for no apparent reason, and then they're on your schedule.
Yes.
You haven't seen them in 6 months or a year. You think about it. And
I apologize. I'm like, sorry, I totally thought about you.
It's because maybe they're thinking about you, and it's like we have that connection with people.
Yeah, I do the same thing. They walk in, I'm like, oh, you're totally here because I thought about you yesterday. I'm so sorry. But we think about our patients, right?
I've never met a chiropractor that didn't agree that happens with them.
Yeah. Well, we think about our patients. I don't think I just think it's who we are.
Yeah, and I think it's something innately, after you put your hands on someone, you're just connected in that way. Which is why one of the reasons I love my job, because I love being connected with people.
Yeah, in talking about, loving our job. So I always laugh. You hear everybody say, it's not work if you like what you're doing. Yeah, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and it's so true because I love this.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine waking up and hating your job? Oh. Yeah. So any other things that you can think of that people are afraid of on their first visit?
Those are the big ones. Babies too. We have some instruments or like things around that talk about babies getting adjusted, and people are like, I didn't know. Or another patient will hear a baby getting adjusted, and they're like, I didn't know babies could get adjusted. Babies, like we were saying before, kids get kid adjustments. Babies get even,
baby adjustments.
We work a lot on, just the sacrum, the upper cervical, and making sure that they're those main things are.
What do you think? So I think when you adjust babies, the parents are kind of looking at me like, what are you doing?
Right.
Because it doesn't look like a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. And so really it's just key, like educating them and letting them know about the nervous system, showing them the baby's signs of stress because they can't talk, right? So the signs of stress for the baby, what those are, and we can see those go away. I'll do just light pressure on a certain spot and they'll get upset, and I'm like, that's them telling me. And after a few visits, I'll be like, okay, I'm doing that same thing, and they're not upset now. So that's a great sign. Like
we see the change.
Progress. Kids and babies are fantastic, right? Because they respond so quickly. So it's so gratifying to see, what we do.
So that's another good thing. So we're talking about first visits, and patients will come in and say, how long is this going to take?
Right.
So I don't have a crystal ball.
Right. But we do have 20 years of experience under our belts that where we can,
17.
She's not. She's much younger than me.
But
obviously.
But I tell patients, you can't expect miracles overnight.
Yeah. If this took, if you've had this situation going on for 20 years, it's going to take a minute to get your body, to get that scar tissue broken up, get things aligned and moving correctly.
Muscle memory.
And then we've got to work on, addressing maybe the things that caused this in the first place, which we would work on that constantly because we want to make forward progress. We don't want to make 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So if it's for us in our office, we're constantly checking like feet balance, making sure you're level. We call it balancing your tires. We do an alignment, and you have like a right arch drop from some kind of injury there. We want to make sure we're balancing all that. So I work on that. We work on workstation. For a lot of people right now working from home, they didn't invest a lot in their home workstation because it was going to be temporary. And so we just have to have a heart-to-heart, like how soon are you going to be back to your office full time, 5 days a week? Probably for a lot of people, never. Like they're going to be at least a few
things
days
are changing.
So, it's time to invest in those workstations, standing workstations at home, better chairs at home, just getting that ergonomics sorted out for at home.
And going back to what you were saying, that, if you've been having these symptoms for 20 years or things have been going on for 20 years, I tell patients, the actual adjustment doesn't take very long.
Right.
So it's more of our conversation and our checks that we're doing that take a little bit longer.
Right.
The adjustment part, I can adjust somebody in a couple of minutes, if not, less.
Right.
And so I tell patients all the time, I can adjust you in a minute, and you have 23 hours and 58 minutes to screw it up the rest of the day.
Right.
So we do need to look at what you're doing at your house, in your day-to-day life.
And so
how are you complementing? We're a team.
Yeah.
I can't
So
do
to
it
go
together.
back to your question, how long is this going to take? The point I'm trying to make is how much work are you going to put into? Because I'm going to do my part, and then you got to meet me halfway. It'll go much quicker if we identify those issues. So that's kind of where I was going with that, answering that question is, we're going to do the adjustment, and that's going to take, I usually say, we're going to do 6 adjustments over the next, 4 weeks, or, it might be 8 adjustments, might be 10 adjustments, depending on the issue or the person.
And reevaluate.
Yeah. And then I'm going to give you some homework to do. And if you do those things, and you do your job and I do my job, hopefully you can graduate at that point, and we can, reduce your visit number. And, like that, start backing off and lengthen you out until
we start breaking up. I always say, not forever, but we'll break up a little bit.
Yeah.
good to see you. It's not good to see you this often.
Yeah. Like, I love seeing you. I'd love to see you every day, but I'm sure
That's
there
not
are better
our goal.
ways to spend your time than coming to see me all the time. So we're gonna figure that out. But,
Awesome. Anything else you want to add? Anything that you can think of? I think this is fun. I don't know if you guys think it's fun. Like I said, we sit around and talk about what we do all day long and how we can make it better and just kind of share with you guys what happens.
Hopefully people will send in questions and we can do this again and answer questions.
Oh, yeah. We'll do that. It's been great visiting with you. I always love when you come see me. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.